wonder what happened in the very first Marvel comic? Let's recap the Human Torch Issue 1. A man named Professor Horton meets with a group of reporters whom he is informing of big news on his latest scientific creation. He's created a synthetic human that he calls the Human Torch. It's a project that surpasses any other creation ever done by a scientist. At least that's what he claims. The Human Torch has one catch, however, something in Horton's figurines that went wrong. When he's introduced to oxygen, he bursts into a maelstrom of flames. Because of this, Horton has to keep the torch locked up in an airtight container. Giving a demonstration to the reporters and later to a few scientists, Horton allows a little oxygen into the tank and the torch explodes in flame. The heat he gives off reaching such heights that it even breaks the pyrometer the scientists use to try and test his capabilities. Both the reporters and the scientists think that the Human Torch is too dangerous because Horton is unable to control his flames, and they ask that he be destroyed. But Horton convinces them to instead encase the torch in a brick of cement. That way, if he can discover a way to control the flames, then the torch can be saved. The container the torch was buried in, however, had a slow leak, and the cement brick eventually explodes, with the Human Torch running free, lighting everything in his wake aflame. Firemen quickly show up to battle the flames and the torch, shooting with a fire hose which only makes him laugh, the water tickling him as steam bellows from his body. Stepping on the hose accidentally, he burns through it, and as the barrage of water stops, he once again runs free. Torch actually wants to find a place to contain himself, and finds a swimming pool in a large fenced yard. Easily burning through the bars and setting some of the grass on fire, he dives into the pool. Inside the nearby mansion, two criminals notice their yard aflame, and the smarter one, a man named Sardo, recognizes the Human Torch from the newspapers. Seeing dollar signs, he orders his henchman Red to close the cover on the pool and drain the oxygen and water from it, expunging the flames from the torch's body. Sardo and Red head to a steel factory and talk to the boss there, a man named Mr. Harris, whom Sardo tries to sell insurance to, threatening him in that if he doesn't pay, then all of his inventory will be destroyed. This makes Harris angry, and he kicks Sardo out. Looking to get revenge, Sardo encases the torch in a glass case while he is underwater and transports him to the factory. At this time, the torch thinks that the men are actually trying to help him, and he goes along with it. When they get to the factory, Sardo breaks the glass, freeing the torch to burn it all down. Torch is trying to figure out why he is here and why the criminals did this to him while the warehouse becomes an inferno of molten steel and flames around him. He comes to the conclusion that Sardo and Red are just low-down business wreckers and he vows to get them. Torch then leaps through a hole in the ceiling, easily flying through the air, chasing his quarry. Back at his mansion, Sardo sees Torch coming and tries to bolt himself inside, but Torch easily burns through anything in his path, searching the house, easily defeating Sardo's cronies, and burning everything around him. Soon though, Torch is able to locate Sardo's hidden laboratory, blocked by a 12-inch thick steel door, and again, he easily melts through it. Sardo panics and tries to take Torch out using a gas bomb, but the heat from Torch's body melts the projectile before it even gets close to him. At this time, the firemen and Horton show up at the scene. Horton sees a canister of nitrogen inside and attempts to grab it, but Torch beats him there. Grabbing and melting the canister, a blast of nitrogen hits him, surprisingly reverting him back to his normal form. The fire chief sees him back in his normal form and also thinks he's a threat, attempting to shoot the torch. The bullet, however, melts before making contact with his skin and doing no damage. Spinning around, he heads back down to the lab to face Sardo, who sees that he is no longer aflame and somehow guesses that it must have been the nitrogen that stopped his flames. He offers Torch another canister of nitrogen in trade for his own safety, but again with flames covering him, Torch just takes the canister from him, telling Sardo that he would never just let him go. He should not have used Torch in his nefarious plans. Torch begins destroying Sardo's lab, and Sardo uses the opportunity to try and sneak up behind Torch to dump a canister filled with sulfuric acid on him, but it explodes in his face, killing Sardo on the spot. Afterwards, Torch uses the nitrogen canister once again and allows him to control his flames, going in and out of his fiery form, as well as throwing balls of blue and red flames. Leaving the area, the cops follow in his wake, finally catching up and surrounding him, but Torch urges them to wait as he shows them that he now has control of his flames. He then turns himself into them. A judge deems the whole situation basically Sardo's fault and mentions that they probably don't have a way to officially jail Torch anyways, as he could just break out on his own. So Torch gets released to Horton's custody. But soon after, he finds out that Horton also plans to use his powers to make money, which angers him. Blowing a hole in the ceiling of Horton's home, he tells him he will never be used for selfish gains or greed again, and he flies away.